This week's chapter of My Hero Academia was very, very interesting for a bunch of different reasons. But before we get into the actual chapter, let's talk about the fact that it's been 7 years since My Hero Academia started its serialization. And to celebrate that, we're actually getting 3 weeks consecutive of color pages for the manga, which is very, very cool. And this week, we start off with this color page right here, and it's looking very nice. And it's just a good way to, kick off the chapter and remind us that My Hero's been going on for a long time, and along with Black Clover, it's one of the longest running series in Jump that's still putting out chapters today. Getting back into the chapter, the title of the chapter today is Friends, and that's going to be a heavy influence with this chapter. Everybody at UA showing that they truly are Deku's friends and they really do care about him. We start off with a flashback of a few days after Deku told UA that he wouldn't be coming back, and everybody's sitting around and they're trying to figure out how they can get into contact with Deku, and they start realizing that maybe they could ask their mentors, Todoroki, all of them, they could ask their mentors, where Deku is, but they tell them that they've tried contacting them and they haven't been picking up their phones. This leads them to the logical conclusion that they must be hiding something from them, since why wouldn't their mentors want to pick up the phone for their students in a time like this? And they even mention that it is busy right now, it's probably not easy for them, but it's still odd that they wouldn't want to pick up the phone for their students and help them out in this time of need. Bakugo also tells the class about how at the hospital, Best Jeanist and Hawks were both also contacting Deku, which also leads them to realize that they all have to be working together. And he also points out that if Deku wasn't the one that brought the letter back to UA, since he's so afraid of, getting his classmates into trouble or getting them in danger, then it had to have been All Might that gave everybody the letters that Deku wrote for them. Bakugo also realizes that Deku and All Might teaming up like this is really the worst case scenario for a bunch of different reasons, since Deku and All Might are basically the same. We get into it later on in the chapter that they're basically the same in terms of not really caring about their own health and, prioritizing helping out others or saving people instead of saving themselves or having other people look after them. This then leads us into a panel with Ochako, which I'm very, very glad that we're finally getting more into her character and seeing her more in these stories, since it's been a while since we've seen her. And I always found it weird that she's the main female of the show, but we never really get to see her do too much. So I'm really hoping that going forward we kind of see her helping out more in the series, or we see her more at Deku's side helping him out, getting some more spotlight, some more shine, since that's one of the things that I just don't like. I don't like that she barely gets any screen time at all in the series. She lets everybody know that Endeavor's an alumni and that they just have to be a little bit pushy, which then leads us into, I guess, the setup. They kind of set up Endeavor using the principal. He helped out the students to get Endeavor to come back to the school so that they could confront him. And we get some very, very cool panels with everybody confronting Endeavor, telling him why he wouldn't tell them everything, why he's hiding information. We see Todoroki, confront him saying hey, why are you ignoring me? Why aren't you trying to help me out? I thought we were going to be doing things together. This leads us into Bakugo's moment where he talks to Endeavor about how basically he knows Deku and All Might the best out of anybody, which makes sense. He's been around them the most, and he knows the most about Deku's secrets and how All Might and One for All came about. And he tells Endeavor straight up that Deku is basically trying to become the new All Might, the new symbol of peace, and that he doesn't really understand anything about them, and that it's very, very bad that he's letting Deku off by himself with All Might. And we already see this, that Deku's starting to go down that path where he doesn't want any help from anybody else. He wants to do everything by himself. He wants to save everybody and isn't worrying about if he needs to be saved or if he's fine, if he should smile. This then leads Endeavor into doing really the only thing he could do in this situation, without being looked as a bad guy. And we do know that Endeavor actually cares, so he ends up giving them the GPS that can track Deku's location. And we get a cool panel with everybody scrambling to try and pick up this phone. They don't want to let it fall, and it's just a really cool panel. I very much enjoyed it. After this, we had another cool panel with everybody standing next to each other saying that, Deku's our friend, we all went to UA, we've been through so much together, like, we're going to go save him, we can't smile if we're just gonna let our friend go through all of this stuff by himself, which I find is really cool, and I'm so glad that we're finally getting more character development for the other side characters in the series that we really haven't seen in like a good long time. Principal Nezu also shows up that he's like an MVP of the chapter. He actually helped set up Endeavor into coming into the room, which helped the students get the GPS, but he's also saying that Deku can actually come back to UA, which is very surprising to Ochako, and she has a flashback of what it felt like when she got accepted into UA, and she realizes that, like, this is special, we really do need to bring Deku back, bring him back to his senses and have him come back to school with us so that we can struggle together, we can help each other out, so that it shouldn't just be him on the front lines, taking all of the beating, taking all of the hurt, doing all of this by himself. We then cut back to the present where they were fighting Dictator, and we get a funny panel where Momo calls Bakugo by his real name, and he corrects her saying that his name is Great Explosion Murder God Dynamite, to which she says pardon me, which is just Bakugo being stupid, like. But I'm surprised that the name is really sticking and that he's actually wanted to go through with it, so I guess all power to him. All of the people that are under control are also, happy that they're finally in control of their bodies and that they can move, and we get to see Deku right now, and he's just questioning why everyone is here at the moment, and I really do like how Deku's character has progressed right now, and seeing like how he went from like this really naive kid to like how he is now, kind of throwing everybody away, trying to do everything himself, and it's just crazy how beaten up he looks in this panel, like he's just on the floor and he's questioning why everybody's there. And to that, Ochako says that we're worried about you. Deku answers this by saying I'm okay, which is most likely a lie. Deku isn't in his best shape right now, and he knows that he's not in his best shape, but he's just gonna keep lying to himself and keep trying to fake smile his way through everything just so that he can have everyone feel at ease, not knowing that him doing all of this is making everybody feel less at ease every time he fakes smiles or he fakes being okay. Bakugo's rebuttal to Deku saying that everybody should stay back and that they shouldn't worry about him is that, so can you really smile after going through all of this? And Deku, of course, says to be able to smile, for people to live in peace, I'm gonna have to keep moving forward. So all of you get out of my way, and we see Deku ready to literally fight all of Class 1A by himself, which is very, very cool. And I didn't see this coming. I didn't think that like he would actually go ahead and try and fight them, but I'm not complaining. I really do like where the story is going right now. Like, no matter how this fight ends, I think Horikoshi did an excellent job with showing off how Deku's changed over time. Which leads us into this final panel, which I find is just so awesome. Bakugo says, just try and make us, you all might want to be, still making fun of Deku. And we see Ida, saying that we know we can't change your mind, and we're gonna have to fight you basically. Like, everybody's ready, and even Ochako's ready. She's on the front lines, ready to bring him back, do whatever she has to get him back to UA. But the one thing that I think nobody's really taking into account right now, and like nobody's really thinking about, is that Deku's kind of like Batman right now in the story. I feel like that's the best person to compare him to. And just like how Batman has contingency plans, Deku's been writing down everybody's quirks and just like, overall taking notes of everybody since like the beginning of the story. Since he even got into UA, he's been doing that with a bunch of different heroes. And I'm pretty sure he's done the same thing with a lot of the members in Class 1A. Like, he'll look at them, take notes of how they fight, and like he'll kind of apply it to himself and learn a bunch of different things from them. So for them to go into a fight with Deku, who's already very, very strong in the story, even though he's fatigued, like he still knows all of their quirks, he knows all of their weaknesses, he's been studying all of them since the beginning of the story. Like, this is going to be a really uphill battle for them, and we honestly could get kind of like a Muriel situation where like Deku kind of just ends all of them very easily, which I don't think that'll happen. Like, I don't think it's going to end up that quick, but like in the beginning of the fight we'll probably get something similar to that, where Deku's kind of manhandling them, and they kind of have to, think up some new tactics. Because when you really think about it, the only person out of that whole group that really knows about Deku's powers and like the extent to which he can kind of do things is Bakugo. Which even then, like, he hasn't really been in contact with Deku a lot since the war, so he doesn't know how Deku's progressed with all of his quirks. So he doesn't know about, Fajin and probably a lot of those different quirks. So this is really an uphill battle for all of Class 1A, and it's not going to be easy for them to bring Deku back. And I do like that. I like that we're going to be getting into that type of fight, seeing Deku probably have to kind of throw away, not his humanity, but he's definitely going to have to, kind of shut off his mind during this fight. All in all, though, I definitely give this chapter a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. I love that we're finally getting to see all of the old members of the class. Not old members, but members that we haven't seen in so long. And we're finally getting development for them. And we're also getting a lot of development for Bakugo. And we're going to be getting a lot for Deku coming on into this fight. It's going to be very interesting seeing this. We've never had an event like this happen in My Hero, so it's going to be really cool seeing how Horikoshi handles this whole fight and handles everybody trying to bring Deku back to UA. And I'm excited for it, and I'm definitely ready to see what happens. But let me know how you guys felt about this chapter. I really did love it, but let me know in the comments, and have a great day.